Hello.
Jared, are we good? Oh, you might have to mute.
Okay. Muted for now. God.
For those of you who are waiting, we will begin the meeting shortly. We may have a quorum, but yet we have a number of people who are calling in who are expressing technical difficulties, and we're trying to get that resolved.
Mr. Chairperson, could you ask everybody to push mute?
Yes, I can. For those of you who are on the phone or are online, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself until we get to roll call.
If you want to go ahead and get started.
We can do that. All right, I want to go ahead and welcome everybody to the January 28th Kentucky Indian Regional Planning Association Board of Directors meeting. Want to apologize in advance. We are having some technical difficulty, still trying to get people logged in from various locations. If you please bear with that. You might hear some phones going off in the background. Those are people calling in, trying to get the new meeting access code and information. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Jarrett for a roll call.
I'll go through the roll call and I'll also be monitoring as people are joining, watching for when we get to a quorum. So Honorable John Black, Honorable Bernard Bowling, Honorable Sean Crothers, Honorable Byron Chapman, Honorable Jack Kaufman, Honorable Bill Deeriff, Mr. Brian Dixon, Honorable David Eaton.
Here.
Mr. Kevin Beatty.
Here.
Mr. Jeff O'Brien for the Honorable Greg Fisher. I see you there, Jeff. Honorable Jeff Gahan. Mr. Keith Griffey.
Here.
Honorable Treva Hodges. Mr. John Park for the Honorable Dan Ison. And I see Mayor Black, so I've got you on now also, Mayor Black. Mr. Andy Crouch for the Honorable Mike Moore. Honorable Todd Pollock.
Here.
Honorable John Riley.
Here.
Honorable Joe Robinson. And I see Judge Ison's just joined, so I've got Judge Ison marked down. Honorable Jerry Summers.
Here.
Honorable Jim Travis.
Here.
Honorable David Vogel. And if we add Mitzi Wyrick to be a board member, we will have a quorum. Mitzi, you are here, aren't you?
She was on there just a minute ago.
I see Mitzi, so we do have a quorum.
Great. So again, welcome to the meeting. We are still experiencing some technical difficulties, but we will proceed on. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I know some of you are muted, so if you want to stay muted but raise your hand for an aye vote, we will allow that as well. So I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
Todd Pollock, Trimble County, so move.
David Eaton, Shelbyville, second.
All right, have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion?
We can just skip over financials and go to the secretaries.
All right, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
That motion passes. At this moment, we're going to skip item number 5, the financials, and we are going to go to the item and hear a presentation from Kentucky's 86th Secretary of State, Mr. Michael Adams. Michael is a native of Paducah, Kentucky. He is the 86th Secretary of State and the 77th person to hold that position. He attended McCracken County Public Schools and was the first in his family to get a bachelor's degree. After graduating from the University of Louisville, Michael attended Harvard Law School on low-income aid. Returning to Kentucky, Michael clerked for Chief U.S. Justice John Hayburn, worked on Senator Mitch McConnell's 2002 re-election campaign, and served as Deputy General Counsel to Governor Ernie Fletcher, before moving to Washington to accept an appointment as counsel to the U.S. Deputy Attorney General in the second Bush administration. In 2007, Michael began full-time private practice in election law, first as general counsel to the Republican Governors Association, and later opening up a national practice in the field. He has represented several national political committees, numerous national political figures, and statewide campaign efforts in all 50 states. Because of this unique election experience, in 2016, Michael was appointed to the Kentucky State Board of Elections, where he gained critical preparation for serving as the Commonwealth's chief election official. Inaugurated as Secretary of State a few days ago, January 6th of 2020, Michael first pushed his highest legislative priority, Kentucky's first photo ID to vote law, through the General Assembly, then pivoted to saving the primary and general elections from the problems that befell other states during the COVID-19 pandemic. His work in making it easy to vote and hard to cheat, and taking Kentucky from the back of the pack to the national leader in election administration in mere months, has earned praise throughout America and across party lines. Michael intends to introduce additional legislation to improve Kentucky's elections and to continue his administrative efforts to clean up Kentucky's voter rolls. Michael is happily married to Christina and is a proud father of, and I'm going to mispronounce this, it's either Lucia or Lucia.
Lucia, yeah.
All right. Thank you and welcome, Michael.
Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction. It's great to be with you all, albeit virtually. I look forward to the point where we can do this in person like the old days. I want to give you just a quick status report on the election we had a couple of months ago. I'll tell you some lessons that I learned from that experience, and then give you an update on the legislation I've asked for in this current legislative session. It's in the process of being drafted now, following a series of meetings with legislators and stakeholders. And so I'm hopeful that we'll see that actually come to a vote here fairly shortly. First off, I hope that you all had a good experience in this election, in both the primary and the general. I'm really proud that it was successful by every metric. We had 64% turnout, the highest we've had in a decade and a half. That's good by any mark, but to have that kind of turnout in the middle of a pandemic, I think is really remarkable. We had a very high turnout election. We had a safe election, despite having millions of people over a primary and a general come out and vote. We had no spike in COVID cases, either coming out of our primary or coming out of our general election. That's really amazing, considering you have spikes come out of holiday gatherings and so forth. To assemble so many people over periods of time and not have a spike is pretty magnificent. The thing I'm maybe the most proud of is we had a clean election in both of these two elections. Despite all the predictions we were going to have all of this vote fraud, it just didn't materialize. We had clean elections. We had a fair and a free election, and the voters' voices were heard, and there was no connivance to steal the election from anybody. So I hope that voters come away from this experience with confidence in our system. The biggest reason I ran for this office was to try to both improve our election system and enhance public confidence in that system. Unfortunately, we've had too many people cynical about our elections and cynical about our election system and believing their votes don't count and the system is driven with fraud. It's not. We have a great system and I'm really proud of it. A couple lessons I learned from the experience. One, I believe this before I got elected, but I especially think this is true now. You cannot have election officials who are partisan or seen as partisan. They've got to be seen as fair-minded and neutral, almost judicial-like, almost as wearing black robes, being neutral arbiters. I've tried really hard, despite my background as a partisan Republican, as a political operative at the highest levels. I've gone way out of my way to be seen as fair and neutral, to not take shots at people for political reasons, to just keep my head down and do my job. And I think that's contributed to the public confidence that there is in our system here. It also gave me the flexibility to work across party lines with the governor to ensure that we had a successful election. The other big lesson I learned, and this was good news, this was my silver lining for 2020, is despite what you think maybe about the public not listening, about everyone being so polarized, I found, to my great happy surprise, that people really do listen. In my experience, when I first compromised with the governor back last spring for a plan for our primary election, the feedback initially was very good with Democrats and independents and very bad with Republicans, my own party. About 2 out of 3 Republicans in early polling showed that they disapproved of my actions to make it safe to vote in a pandemic, and specifically to expand absentee voting. But as it turned out, 60% of Republicans who voted in our high turnout primary voted by absentee ballot. In the span of just a couple of months, we were able to really get especially Republicans to listen and to change their opinion, and then to actually utilize one of the options that we had available that we were pushing, which was to try to avoid crowds by having people vote either early or vote remotely. We had a similar experience in the general election. There was a poll that came out in mid-September. It asked Kentuckians, by what method do you tend to vote in the November election? 25% said vote absentee ballot, 13% said vote early in person, and 56% of voters said they were going to vote on election day and not before. If we had actually had that happen, we would have had a complete debacle. We would have had lines out the door at the polling sites on election day until 2 in the morning, like you saw in DC and Pennsylvania and some other places. We would have had people get sick. We've had people disenfranchised by being unwilling or unable to wait that long. But by getting voters to listen, to take in new information, and to follow recommendations from me and from the governor, we were able to change that. Ultimately, about 25% of voters voted in person on election day, 45% voted early in person, and 30% voted by absentee ballot. So because we were able to get people to take information provided by trusted sources and massage that information and then act on it, we had a successful election. It wasn't by accident. It was because of relentless efforts to offer people information and get them to hopefully listen and act on it. And they did. That really re-inspired me as a public official to believe that I really can persuade. And when you're in an executive branch position, like of course many of you are, sometimes you're worried that in this polarized environment, in a pandemic, when you really can't go out and have meetings the way you used to, that you can't reach the public and persuade them to do something. And my happy experience has been that you still can. So taking all of this into account, what are my suggestions for permanent improvements to our system? All the things that we did in 2020 that worked so well, that made us the envy of the country, red states and blue states, our phones rang off the hook with my counterparts in other states asking, how did you do it? How can we be more like Kentucky? How often do you ever hear that question? That was pretty great. All of those great improvements were done through emergency powers. And all of those executive orders have expired. They're not renewable. The election is over. I don't have the authority, nor should I have the authority to wave a magic wand and change the election system going forward. That's a responsibility that's committed to our legislature under the Constitution. And so I've asked them to act on that authority by making permanent improvements to our system. Some of them derive from our experience last year, and some of them not derived, but still good ideas. So I'll walk you through those really quickly. There were 4 things we did last year I'd like to keep. First is in-person early voting. I don't think elections should take 2 weeks or 3 weeks like we had last year. We had to keep people spaced apart. We needed several days for people to vote to avoid crowds. But I do think a few days, maybe a Thursday, Friday, Saturday before Election Day, for people to be able to come and vote in person early without a particular excuse required is really good for our system. It's good for turnout. It's good for convenience of working people to be able to have some options on when they go vote, especially if you have a Saturday in that period of time. If you can keep your early voting period fairly short, like just a few days, then you don't make things harder for the candidates. I got a lot of complaints from candidates last year that they had a 3-week period they were on the ballot, and that really messed up their strategy. It became more expensive to run a campaign. I'm certainly sympathetic as someone who's been a candidate myself, has been a professional advisor to 400 other candidates in my career. I'm empathetic to that concern. We shouldn't have those long campaigns outside of a pandemic, but I don't think a few days would make much of a difference, and it really helps the voters. Second, I think we should keep the vote center model that we had last year. I'm not in favor of abolishing precincts overall and closing traditional voting locations, but having at least one place in the county that's a centralized, easy, accessible location for anyone in the county, knowing that there's one place you can go vote regardless of your precinct, that's a really good improvement. Other states have already done this. This is one of the things that we're behind the rest of the country on. This gives you a few advantages. One is you don't disenfranchise people that go to vote in the wrong precinct. That happens over and over again every election. People go to the wrong precinct. They don't know any better, and then they get sent somewhere else, and they may or may not actually go to the next place. Having one place to vote makes it easy. It's also a much more efficient way to get voters in and out than the old model. We've got some precincts that are in difficult to reach locations that have only 50 or 100 people in the precinct. It's an old model that was drawn up in the 1890s. It doesn't really fit modern reality. It's a lot more convenient to have one central place, at least one central place. It's on your way to work or maybe near your work location instead of being based on your residence. It's also more convenient and much cheaper for the counties that actually have to fund these elections at the ground level. It's easier to have more people vote in one place. You can actually shorten the lines when you do that because they're more efficient getting voters in and out, and you need fewer poll workers. We've got a real crisis brewing since before I took office, finding enough people who will volunteer for 12 hours and be poll workers. It takes thousands of those people under the traditional model. We need fewer of those people to do it the way we did it last year. The third big change I want to see us keep is keeping the absentee ballot request portal. I don't favor a permanent expansion of absentee voting, but I do think we're going to have absentee voting. It's in our state constitution. It's in our laws. We're not going to take that away. So let's make this as convenient as possible to apply for that ballot. Make it as easy as possible for us to confirm your identity electronically. Make it as easy as possible for us to surveil the absentee ballots. For the first time in our history, these ballots were transparent. The voter could log on and see where her ballot was in the process, whether it had been, whether the application had been received by the clerk, whether the ballot had been issued out to the voter, and whether it had been received back and counted. We never had that before. It was not possible for the clerk to track the ballot, for the voter to track the ballot, let alone me sitting here in Frankfurt. Now the Attorney General and I in real time can track these ballots, look and see if any are lost or missing or stolen. That's a great supervisory model we've never had before, and it's only possible through a centralized portal. The fourth thing is to keep the cure process. In 2018, 7.5% of absentee ballots were thrown in the garbage with no notice to the voters. They never knew their ballot just got thrown away. This year, knowing we'd have a lot more absentee, we implemented a cure process so that if a voter mailed a ballot back or hand-delivered or dropped off in a drop box an absentee ballot, and the signature didn't match the voter's registration card, we called the voter and told the voter. And the voter had a chance to come in and verify identity. Obviously, this is good for making sure people get enfranchised. We were able to cut in half the rate of failure of these absentee ballots based on the signature mismatch from 7.5% to 3.8%. But here's another benefit. Now, if the voter tells us, hey, that wasn't me, I didn't sign that absentee ballot envelope, that gives us an inquiry into potential fraud. We've never had that before. So these 4 things make it easier to vote and harder to cheat. Early voting, I'm told by prosecutors, career prosecutors, makes it easier for them to monitor an election for irregularities. Instead of having everyone converge on the polls on one day, when you spread it out a little bit, it's easier for them to monitor the polling sites. All these improvements address potential fraud, but they also make it easier for ballots to be counted. So I think these are good things we should make permanent. I'll give you a couple more suggestions, and then I'll turn it back over for any questions you all have or any feedback. Something else I want to see us do is transition to 100% paper ballots. When I took office a year ago, 29 of our 120 counties had no machines that could process a paper ballot. All their machines were electronic. I'm not someone who buys the conspiracy theories that the machines are manipulated or hacked and elections are stolen. That's just plainly false. But I'll be honest, the voters feel more confident about a system where there's a paper trail. If there's ever an allegation of fraud or corruption, if there's ever a concern about ballots being misdirected, if there's ever even a concern about a recount, a need for a recount, just because the race is close. With electronic machine, you don't really have the ability to do that, but you do with paper ballots. As of today, all 120 counties now have paper ballots. Some of them have a mix of electronic and paper, however. My goal is to get us to 100% paper ballots. We've been very vigorous in chasing down and getting grants to pay for these costs to help the counties not have to spend too much money or the state. I'm really proud of that. That's gotten us to 120 counties from just 79 a year ago that had some capacity for paper ballots. But I want to see us get there universally, every machine in Kentucky. And I think we can do that over my term of office. Something else I want to see us do is to ban ballot harvesting. The Attorney General and I both informed voters and others last year that it's not permitted in Kentucky law. And as a literal matter, that's true, but there's no penalty, unfortunately, for doing it. Ballot harvesting is when you go out and collect absentee ballots and bring them in by the truckload to a county clerk and drop them off and say, these are your ballots. That's a really dangerous model. We've seen, even in just the last 48 months, corruption in ballot harvesting in other states, people going to prison, elections being overturned. It's a horrible practice, and it's not legal here, but we do need penalties to make sure it doesn't happen, because I've got no ability to punish it if it does. And finally, we need to take more aggressive action on getting our voter rolls cleaned up. When I took office, I found that we had 400,000 people in our voter rolls who either have passed away, been put away, or moved away. And it's going to take a lot of time to get those rolls cleaned up. It's not something I can flip a switch and do. And part of that is because I need more authority under our statute. I'm very restricted in my ability to make amends for a decade where we didn't keep the rolls up to date. So I've asked the legislature to enhance my authority to be able to do that. And I think that will get our rolls clean sooner rather than later. So with that, I'll turn it back over. I want to thank you for your attention and your interests. And if you have any questions or comments, I'm all ears. Thank you all.
Thank you, Secretary Adams. Do we have any questions?
Hey, Michael, Mayor Black here in LaGrange. I agree with you. Kentucky, probably county clerks, yourself. We all know you all and my county clerk to be honest people and run elections. But my question would be for you, whether it's Democrat or Republican, I don't care either way, but I just want everyone to be guaranteed fair elections. So my question of you is this: in those states they were talking about, whether you're familiar with those Secretary of States or not, was there or is there or could there have been any of this things taking place that we heard these arguments about with Dominion and things like that? And you don't have to elaborate, but is there a possibility that could actually happen even in Kentucky if we had a crooked Secretary of State?
Well, here's some good news. Even if I were crooked, it would be impossible for me to steal an election. There's no election in America that's subject to one person being able to cook the books. In Kentucky, for example, and this is common practice across America. In Kentucky, I don't run the election by myself. There's thousands and thousands of people of both parties that run the election. We've got a bipartisan state board of election, 8 Democrats, 8 Republicans. We've got, working with me, obviously, a Democratic governor, and I'm a Republican. At the local level, you've got Democrats and Republicans on every county board of elections. That's by law. You can't have a partisan board. It's got to be bipartisan. Even the poll workers have to be split, D's and R's. And we've got literally thousands of people, thousands of poll workers, county board of elections members, plus those of us in Frankfurt, who together have to sign off on all these elections. There's no software, there's no company, there's no foreign actor that counts our votes. We count our votes. I have a fax machine in my office that gets signed faxes from these county boards of elections. They've got to be signed by all the D's and the R's on the county board. And that's the official vote totals. And we add them up and we put them out, and it's all done in a transparent way. So it's literally impossible under that type of a model to steal a statewide election. When you do see vote fraud, and I'm not someone who dismisses concerns about vote fraud. It's a real thing, and it happens even in modern America. It's not common. It's very rare, and it's very hard to get away with. When it does happen, it typically happens in a municipal race or a county race in a very small place, in a very poor place where you can have some vote buying. And typically, you've seen that, of course, I won't pick on specific counties, but more in the eastern part of our state, you see that. But you got to have somebody in cahoots on it. And so that's why it's impossible, really, to steal a statewide race, to steal a congressional race even. There's just too many people involved. And even when you've had people attempt to steal a race at the local level, they get caught and they get sent to federal prison. So it's comforting in some way, I think, to know that we have, it's like federalism. When you have separation of powers, when you have checks and balances, that keeps anybody from running away with something. And so I'm glad that there are all these checks on my office today, and they existed before I got here, and will be here after I'm gone.
Thank you, Mayor Black. Any other questions?
I've got a question. I hope you haven't covered this already, and I just wasn't paying close enough attention. John Riley, by the way, from Spencer County.
Yes, sir.
We are looking at having to purchase new voting equipment, machines, and so forth. I think we have like 18 precincts. Is it going to be necessary for us to buy all new equipment for 18 precincts, or are we going to be consolidating these polls so that we have what I think we had for our general election 3 polling places versus 18? But maybe you could address that. I just need to know from a budgeting standpoint, how much equipment do we need to buy? Is it going to be considerably less now or about the same?
Well, yes, sir. My goal is to enable you all to consolidate a lot of your precinct voting locations. Even if you have the same number of precincts, my legislation would enable you to consolidate several of them, so you can have the same set of poll workers handle a few precincts that are all abut each other, and then you need less equipment. You need fewer poll workers. The House, the State House here actually passed a bill for that last year before the pandemic. So I have legislation that's being written now. I hope it'll be done in the next week or 10 days. And one of the things that's in there is to enable you, not to require you, it's a decision that you all should make at the local level, but to enable you to adopt a vote center type model and reduce the number of voting locations and consolidate some of these precincts. And one of the reasons I want to do it now is so that you all can make intelligent decisions about your budget and about buying equipment. I know there's no elections this year, but that's not a good reason to wait until next year to pass a bill like this. I want to do it now. I just think doing it now and giving you all time to actually benefit from it is a better approach. So if you all, let me add, if you agree with any of the things that I've advocated for or disagree, I respect your opinion either way, let your legislator know. They're real interested to know what you all think. They know what I think, but they need to hear from the grassroots and hear from their districts. And if there's things that you like or don't like, we certainly want to get your input on it.
Thank you, Judge Riley. Maybe time for one or two more questions. All right, well, not hearing anything. Thank you, Secretary Adams, for your time.
Thank you.
We thank you for your dedication and your service to the state of Kentucky, and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Secretary, just to echo, thank you for your patience as we dealt with some of the technological issues today. So thank you, and thank you for your time. And also thank you, Haley Blackburn in your office. She was just wonderful working with getting you scheduled. So thank you again.
Thanks. She does a great job. Thank you all.
All right, so we will go backwards one step in the agenda and do the December financial statements, and I will turn it over to Tom at this time.
Unmute here. Okay. In your agenda item number 5, and the information starting on page 23 of the board packet is the December financial report. And unfortunately, as in the past, the budget that's reflected on that first page of the summary of work elements is the last year's budget, which we've been operating under. The good news is later in the meeting, we will be presenting a actual budget for 21, which will give us more meaningful comparisons to the budget. But as we've said previously, we've been operating with a general understanding of the amount of revenue we'd have, and we're not, and the budget will show that we're not going to have any problems. And this report shows what our expenses are through December. And the agency-wide doesn't reflect any budgeted amounts, and next month will be a much more meaningful comparison for us to show. But we are comfortable that from where we are today, we're going to be good to get to the end of the year. But we've got the summary of work element expenditures, the agency-wide expenditures, and the balance sheet, which shows we're in a sound financial position. I'll be glad to answer any questions anyone might have right now.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any questions? Hearing none, board action is required, so I need a motion and a second to approve.
I will motion to accept the report. Todd Pollock.
Second by Judge Dyson.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Aye.
That item is approved. We'll move on to item number 7 then, Transportation Policy Committee. Amanda.
Thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, everybody. This is agenda item 7 on page 2 in your meeting packet. Our MPO Policy Committee met today at 12:30 via Zoom webinar, and we had Bernadette DuPont on from the Federal Highway Administration. She gave a presentation on bicycling and pedestrian activities. Staff provided a report to TPC on all the public involvement activities that we've been carrying out, the public input that we've received since our last meeting in November. Kevin Beatty and Bernie Bowling were elected as chair and vice chair for TPC for 2021. And TPC was made aware of our chair and vice chair for the technical committee, TTCC, and that's Keith Griffey and Brittany Montgomery for 2021. Staff kicked off our next Metropolitan Transportation Plan, Connecting Kentuckiana 2050, and shared the schedule for that plan, which has a completion date of, or planned completion of fall of 2023. We also provided an update on the status of our dedicated funding program, and TPC approved a cost increase and phase shift requested by project sponsors. We also shared the schedule for the third amendment opportunity, the third opportunity to add or revise projects to our current MTP, Connecting Kentuckiana 2040, or our current TIP, the fiscal year 20 to 25 Transportation Improvement Program. And that schedule has us accepting applications through February 1st, air quality conformity activities from February to April, public comment period in April. We'll go back to committees with a recommendation in May, and then would expect final federal approval in June. That concludes my report on January TPC. I'd be glad to take any questions, and board action is requested.
Thank you, Amanda. Any questions for Amanda? Hearing none, I need a motion and a second to approve.
And so moved. Judge Vogel.
Second, Chester Burton.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
That item is approved. Amanda, staying with you for Division of Transportation Agreements.
Thank you. I have two items, and I'll take those separately. This is agenda item 8, and the relevant attachment for this item is on page 31 of the meeting packet. For the first one, the Division of Transportation is in need of a new project database to track over 2,700 total projects, and that's in the MTP and TIP, and over $1 billion in active funding. So in other words, TIP funding. And our current access database was constructed in 1991. It limits our ability to manage projects and move towards our goal of having more real-time information available for the public online. A new database will allow us to improve efficiency, transparency, and accuracy in our planning and programming documents. It'll allow us to communicate directly with ArcGIS, again, moving towards having that real-time information available online. We would like to advertise for consultant services for up to $50,000 to create a new database and possibly server and web services to create those online dashboards. And of course, after selection and negotiation, we would come back to board before entering into an agreement. But at this time, board approval is requested to allow KIPDA to publish that request for qualifications.
Thank you, Amanda. Do I have a motion and a second to authorize the request for qualification release?
Todd Pollock, I'll make that motion.
Second, Judge Vogel.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand or say aye.
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 Amanda, it looks like you can start the purchase of your software.
Thank you. Thank you. It's going to be great. All right, for the second item, Chairman, over the summer, the board approved our annual maintenance agreement with Esri for continued use of ArcGIS for mapping and analytics. And of course, Esri is a requirement for some of the annual contracts with our funding agencies, such as their roadway centerline contract with KYTC. And that maintenance agreement that board approved, it was for service from August 1st, 2020 to July 31st, 2021. It was $17,750. But we now have the need for additional professional licenses and features. And to meet those needs, I'm now asking for board approval to upgrade from that general maintenance agreement with Esri to what's called an enterprise agreement. And with that change, we would receive prorated credit back for the $17,750 that we paid. We'd start a new agreement, and between February 2021 till 1 year, January 2022, it would be $27,500, and the cost would be shared by KIPDA divisions based on the number of licenses in each. I should note that if we simply purchase the additional licenses that we need at this time, we'd have a one-time cost of $17,820 in addition to the $17,750 that we already paid, and we'd receive no additional features such as the upgraded software, which is going to come with the enterprise agreement. If this gets approved, the enterprise agreement, it'll be a 3-year deal. It's renewed annually. We will have the option to not move forward, to not renew if we have trouble with funding, if we can't afford to do that. Our GIS manager is on today, Adam Forsyth. Adam or I would be glad to take any questions. But again, board action is requested to approve for Jarrett Haley to enter into this new agreement, this enterprise agreement with Esri for $27,500 per year.
Okay, do I have a motion, a second, to move forward and upgrade the Esri software to an enterprise agreement?
I'll make that motion, John Riley.
Second. Vogel. Can you just describe, briefly what additional features come with the enterprise?
Sure, I'll go ahead and take so currently we have 4 professional licenses and 12 desktop licenses. And then, so the software is kind of evolving from a desktop-based thing to more of an online thing. The enterprise license agreement gives us up to 50, or well, it's 100 if you break it down into different categories of licenses for different online things. It gives everyone the ability on their desktop in the KIPDA agency to have GIS and the professional license, which is upgraded. It has more editing features. It has more sharing and more online capabilities. So it's, and then we also have increased customer service. So if we have issues with some of the software, they will answer our questions and work with us to try and come up with solutions to different things. And we have a bunch of different extensions that we don't currently have access to. So that's kind of some of the things that it gives us.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, that is approved. We'll move on to item number 9, Regional Transportation Council, Randall.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon, board. The KIPDA Regional Transportation Council met at 1 o'clock on Zoom. First item was to approve the minutes from the November 24th meeting. Then we had a public comment period. We had the county transportation updates in Henry, Shelby, Spencer, and Trimble counties. Talked about the Kentuckians for Better Transportation Conference that I attended virtually last week. There was over 650 attendees there, and the legislators were there to talk about transportation. We had the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet State Highway Engineer, James Ballinger, talk about road projects and bike pedestrian plans. The next item was I went over the KYTC Strategic Highway Investment Formula Schedule for this year with the committee. And then also the last agenda talked about the active transportation plan. And we have 500 public surveys on that active transportation plan. And the next Regional Transportation Council will meet March 25th at 1 o'clock via Zoom. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. Need board approval.
Thank you, Randall. Any questions for Randall? Hearing none, I need a motion and a second to accept the report.
I'll make the motion, John Riley.
I'll second the motion. John Pollock. Thank you.
All right, have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, Randall. Item number 10 in the agenda, Regional Planning Council, Danielle.
Good afternoon. The Regional Planning Council met on January 12th. Our guest speaker was Dr. Natasha Utagama. Dr. Utagama serves as a program manager at the Thriving Earth Exchange, which connects communities with scientists and supports them as they work together to tackle local challenges related to natural hazards, natural resources, and climate change. In December, the Thriving Earth Exchange selected KIPDA as a member of their January 2021 cohort. And KIPDA will be paired with a scientist to conduct a community science project. Dr. Utagama gave a brief presentation on Thriving Earth and the work that they do with communities like KIPDA. And in this partnership, KIPDA is hoping to create a flood susceptibility index for all the counties in our region that will be integrated into our hazard mitigation plan that will be able, that communities will be able to utilize when they're with their planning efforts and hazard mitigation actions. Action is requested to approve this report.
Thank you, Danielle. Any questions? Hearing none, a motion and a second to accept the report, please.
I'll make a motion to accept Mayor John Black.
Second, Judge Ison.
All right, having a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on then in the agenda, item number 11, Regional Water Management Council. Justin.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Board. The KIPDA Regional Water Management Council met on Tuesday, January 12th at 1:30 p.m. via Zoom online video, and the meeting was also streamed live on our agency's YouTube page. Sandy Williams, the new Deputy Executive Director for the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, provided the council with an update on the call for SRF state revolving fund loan projects that ended last December. She reported that this cycle, there were a total of 99 clean water projects and 111 drinking water projects that were submitted throughout our state. The clean water projects total costs were just over $521 million, and the drinking water costs were slightly under $238 million. There were 15 projects submitted within the KIPDA region, 14 clean water, and 1 drinking water project. According to the officials with the Environmental Protection Agency, the next cycle of federal funding coming to the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority to help fund the state revolving fund loan program is expected to be similar to the amount that was received last year in fiscal year 21. The total amount of funding available should be about the same, with more projects submitted this year in fiscal year 22. KIA is currently working with the Kentucky Division of Water to help determine project eligibility and prioritization for this upcoming year's project loan invitations. We also had Russell Neal, who is the supervisor with the municipal planning section at the Kentucky Division of Water. He provided the council with an update on the Kentucky Division of Water's fiscal year 21 plans and activities. Mr. Neal discussed how the biggest change to this year's SRF loan funding cycle is in the area of asset management. He discussed how recent legislation regarding America's Water Infrastructure Act of 2018 has been taken into consideration, which will expand on the state's roles in assisting water and wastewater systems with asset management planning. We also had Ali Terrell with HomeServe USA, who provided the council with information regarding their ServLine program. HomeServe USA is an independent provider of home repair service solutions. For more than a decade, they have helped homeowners protect themselves against the expense and inconvenience of water, sewer, electrical, heating, and cooling home emergencies by offering quality coverage and service at an affordable price. The ServLine program helps protect homeowners from the high cost and hassle of covered emergency home repairs with repair service plans that cover parts and labor to repair critical infrastructure systems. This affordable plan provides repair service in an emergency through HomeServe USA's 24/7 repair hotline by local licensed and insured technicians, and comes with a 1-year guaranteed on all repairs. The program is designed to work with local utilities to allow service to be maintained for customers during emergency service line breaks on their property. The Water Management Council also approved 1 new sewer project for the Shelbyville Municipal Water Commission titled Norfolk Southern Sewage Pump Station and Force Main Project, with an estimated cost of $2,470,000. KIPDA GIS specialist Zach Herzog and myself are currently in the process of conducting all of our fiscal year 21 system visits with all of our KIPDA water and wastewater systems. And we are updating all of the system data and the asset management data right now for this current last year in 2020. The next KIPDA Regional Water Management Council meeting will be held online via Zoom again on Tuesday, April 13th at 1:30 p.m. That concludes my report. Thank you, Chairman. Action is requested.
Thank you, Justin. Any questions on the Regional Water Management Council? Hearing none, I need a motion and a second to accept.
I'll make a motion since it involves my good mayor friend in Shelbyville.
I'll second that motion. Todd Pollock. And I must say, Justin has a nice haircut.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on to, back to Danielle for county budget workshops.
Yes, and I'm going to follow the county budget workshops update with a update on the CDBG COVID grant funding as well. So hold tight after the county budget workshop report. The Department for Local Government, their budget basic workshops will be held virtually this year. DLG partnered with the ads to host these virtual trainings. There will be 6 trainings, each hosted by a different ad. KIPDA will be assisting with a training hosted on February 10th, hosted by Lincoln Trail, and on February 12th, training hosted by Northern Kentucky. The training teaches budgeting basics and statutory budgetary requirements, and you will earn 3 hours of county officials training credit. Now, you do not have to attend the training that's associated with KIPDA. You can attend any of the trainings that are available. I will be sending out an email following the board meeting with links to each of these trainings. You do have to sign up and register 1 week prior to the training. So you need to make sure that you mark that on your calendar and make sure you go ahead and get registered for the one that works best for you. Additionally, if you would like to participate as a group, if multiple people will be sitting in a room watching and attending the training, then you need to let the hosting ad know in advance, because everyone needs to be visible in order for their credit to be counted. Again, I will send an email with all this information on there about that. Now to the Community Development Block Grant coronavirus response for the Utility Assistance Program. So Governor Beshear announced, as we all, I think we've reached out to everybody, we should have spoken to everybody here, but there's been a $38 million and made available to local governments to help Kentuckians with overdue utility bills. And each unit of local government can request up to $200,000 for assistance. And the deadline for this application is June 30th, 2022. Now, just to reiterate, this is like a standard CDBG application. So we have to go through all the typical things that we would normally do. So we have to go through the e-clearinghouse, we have to do an environmental review, there has to be a public hearing. So this will be a bit of a process, and it will take at least a couple months for us to get the application submitted and for funds to actually be awarded. Households will be eligible for up to $250 per month for 6 consecutive months if they live in a county or city approved for funding, if they've been financially impacted by COVID, and that they are struggling to pay their water, sewer, and electric bills. So they will need to be delinquent and will need to have received either a disconnection notice or show on their bill that they are actually delinquent. Cities and counties will partner with their local community action agencies, so Tri-County or multi-purpose, to distribute this funding. Citizens will go to the local community action agency to submit an application and show proof of income disruption during COVID. And then the community action agency will pay the utility on their behalf. Now, the state is prioritizing water and sewer assistance as that assistance has not been made readily available. So that is our priority. So right now, KIPDA is assisting with seeing what the need is in our region. Justin has been reaching out to all of the water and sewer utilities, determining the need and the dollar amount and delinquent accounts, so we can see exactly where you sit with that and then help you strategize how we want to move forward with submitting these grant applications. It is important to note for public owned utilities that the grantee must ensure that costs to be allocated to individuals or families do not include depreciation of assets whose cost was borne by the federal government, including assets acquired by CDBG, RD, or other federal grants. So that would have to be removed from the rate. Additionally, you would also have to remove any profit as well from that rate. And again, Justin is speaking to all the utility companies about this and working through that. So once we are going to go ahead and start the e-clearinghouse process, actually to get that moving. Once we get the needs assessment complete for each of your counties, we'll be reaching out to each of you on how best to proceed. Hopefully this will be sometime next week. And that concludes my report.
Question.
Yeah.
As I understand it, the mayor and myself and the mayor of Simpsonville, the maximum we could request is $200,000 total?
No, you could request $200,000 each if necessary.
Okay.
And once you expend that money and you close out that grant, you could reapply for another $200,000 as long as the funds are available.
Great.
Danielle, this is Mayor Shelbyville.
Yes.
Are there ways, like if the judge and I wanted to just work together on this and just have one application, are we able to pull it together?
Yes, absolutely. And that's what we are encouraging. So that's why we're trying to establish the dollar amount in need in each of your all's counties right now, because hopefully we can the county can submit one application that would cover the expense for the county residents and those within the cities.
Would this be something that both of us would have to sign jointly, or is there something I have to do to allow my city's $200,000 to be coupled with the judge's $200,000?
No, well, so there would still be a $200,000 application. You can submit one application. The county could submit one application that would cover the residents within the city limits in addition to the residents within the county, but it would still be capped at $200,000. There would have to be an agreement between you and the county as to those funds going towards residents, but it would still only be capped at the 200. So the 200,000 is based not on jurisdiction, but per application.
So we would better off than apply separately to get the full.
Make 3 applications would be better to us.
You have to distribute that there's a need for the $200,000 in each. So that's why we're collecting the dollar amount of delinquent accounts for your water and sewer, so you know how much you have in water and sewer delinquency. And then if you wanted to pursue, again, because that is the state's priority, because there is LIHEAP available still for utility, for electric and gas assistance. And then we could determine if there is an additional delinquent accounts for gas and electric that you would maybe want to add into that. You do have to show that need, but you could, yes, it's a local decision that you all will make as to whether or not you want to apply one application in conjunction, or if you want to each apply for a separate application.
But just to be clear, if we apply together, it's $200,000, but if we apply separately, it's $200,000 each.
That's correct.
Unfortunately, you can't do a joint application to get the $400,000.
Okay.
It has to be individual.
Okay.
Yeah, they won't let us do that.
So it's in our best interest to apply individually.
If the need is there, yes.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, does it impact us in any way in that we have 2 sewerage companies, one in Simpsonville, one in Shelbyville, none in the county, but we have 7 water companies total throughout the cities and the counties? Does that impact in any way?
No.
Okay.
And Jeff, just for your knowledge for Louisville Metro, this is currently just for the non-entitlement communities. So Jefferson County cannot apply, but DLG is monitoring and seeing how these dollars will be used by the non-entitlement communities. And if there's still money left over, then they're going to open up to entitlement communities such as Louisville.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Jared. Yeah, we received a direct appropriation of COVID CDBG last year, and then we also received a direct appropriation of eviction prevention money with the latest package.
Okay, great.
Any other questions for Danielle? All right, no action was required on that, so we will move on to item number 13 in the agenda, climate change report. Olivia.
there. I'll keep this super short. As you know, we had an unusually long meeting today and have a lot going on. I'm just going to give a short presentation on something that we had an intern work on for us last summer. So last summer, summer of 2020, feels like ages ago, we partnered with Indiana University Bloomington and had one of their students help us develop a climate change report for our KIPDA counties, including our Kentucky and Indiana counties, but excluding Jefferson County, as they've handled their own climate report. So we're going to be including this in the hazard mitigation plan. I'm just going to give you a very brief synopsis of what we came up with and what we found through extensive research. I've also done additional research. Our intern did an awesome job, and we're actually partnering with IU again this summer for another intern. So essentially, like, what should we expect as climate changes and is getting even crazier? As we know, Kentucky has an unpredictable climate, and we have crazy summers, crazy winters, and things are only going to get more unpredictable and intense. So what we can expect is intense heat and humidity to increase. So those summers are only going to get hotter and more humid, which I know we're all glad to hear. We're also going to have increased precipitation and flooding, which will certainly be an issue. And then essentially we'll have more extreme weather events. So talking about heat, I just have a quick chart from the US Climate Resilience Toolkit, which is a US government organization that shows the KIPDA region as a whole. And it maps out the change in average max daily temperature for our summer months from 2000 to 2050. And so as you can see, in 2000, we were at about 87.3 average highest temperature per day. And in a higher emission scenario, that means if the government doesn't cut down on carbon dioxide emissions, we're looking at about 92.4 degrees by 2050. Which is about a 5-degree difference, which is very substantial when considering how hot and intense our summers are. Indiana University has a great tool. This is specifically for our Clark and Floyd counties. It's called the Hoosier Resilience Index. And we produced this chart from their really cool tool, and it shows the number of extreme heat events. Extreme heat events are essentially when it's so hot you're going to have a certain number of people suffer from hyperthermia or other heat-related illnesses. So as you can see, currently in Clark and Floyd County, we're looking at around 40 days a year where we have extreme heat. And in the 2050s, we're looking potentially between about 85 to over 100 extreme heat events per year. And why this is so troubling is because this extreme heat is paired with our high humidity. As we know, we have crazy high humidity here. I can feel it as my hair grows larger and larger in the summer months, and humidity is only going to intensify as the years go on. So that extreme heat and that high humidity are coupled together to create high wet bulb temperatures. And why that's problematic is because high heat and high humidity means that your body can't cool itself by sweating, so it's not a dry heat. It makes 82 degrees feel like a Southern Alabama on its hottest day. And that's what's most problematic because it substantially increases the risk of heat stroke and death, especially among our homeless population and our population that doesn't have access to air conditioning. So that's only going to intensify. This is a map of the United States with 2040, 2060 projections for climate. And as you can see, the Ohio Valley, the Mississippi River Valley, that's huge. We're kind of the epicenter of these high humidity, high heat days, which can be really challenging for our population and for agriculture. And I have a table here that shows projections for 2040 to 2060 by county of the number of days that are going to be extreme heat and extreme humidity. our counties will range anywhere between 10 to 40 days of extreme wet bulb temperatures. And as you can see, Bullitt, Floyd, Jefferson, and Spencer have the highest number of days. That ranking that you see on the left is a national ranking out of 10. So we have extreme heat, extreme humidity. We're also going to get increasing precipitation. So with a changing climate, we are looking at our wet seasons getting even wetter. We're looking at about a 10 to 15% increase in precipitation and about a 40% increase in heavy precipitation by 2100, which is very substantial and can cause increased flooding, which can trigger a lot of different extreme climate events. So increased flooding can increase the likelihood of dam failures in our region. It also puts a strain on agricultural drainage, can also lead to more landslides because increased precipitation disturbs slope evolution and changes hydrological processes so that we have an increased number of landslides as well. So again, increased heat, increased humidity, increased precipitation all lead to potentially fatal and concerning events. I've just been a bright ray of sunshine today, haven't I? I'm sure. So in summary, we are looking at a changing climate. We're going to see much warmer temperatures, greater precipitations, and more intense hazardous events. And why this is important to KIPDA, and especially now, is we are updating our 2021 hazard mitigation plan. And a huge part of the hazard mitigation plan is estimating the vulnerability of our communities to natural disasters. And in the past, this estimation hasn't brought climate change into the equation. So now we're using climate change to help us decipher what our vulnerability is going to look like in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And that also helps us decide which projects should be prioritized. So I'll be talking about this at hazard mitigation meetings, and we also have this information available on our website. And I did want to remind y'all that we have a hazard mitigation website, KIPDAHazardmitigation.org, where you can learn about all of our hazards and how they intersect with a changing climate. And you can provide feedback on hazards, flooding, sewer and stormwater overflows in your region, in your community, by going to our feedback map. So this is something I presented about before, but I want to emphasize. Again, I would like to say, I know I've been popping up at some city council and county meetings, but we do have a requirement, an in-kind match requirement, that our communities have to participate in this hazard mitigation update process. So please, when I reach out, be receptive. We switched to an in-kind match requirement in the mid-2000s so that our communities wouldn't have to pay for a plan. Instead, they would have to pay through participation. So we need your participation. Again, another way you can participate is through our website. If you spend any time on there looking through the natural disasters and how they intersect with our region, go to our survey and tracking form, and you can put in your time and we can count that towards your community's donation. And that's all I have for y'all today.
Thank you, Olivia. Any questions?
No, this is Mayor Black. Olivia is going to come to our city council meeting Monday night, I think. So
yes,
she's provided her materials to us, and I'm anxiously awaiting her presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Black.
You're welcome.
And just to kind of elaborate on what Olivia said, in 2006, when KIPDA did the first hazard mitigation plan, we required cash donations, or not donations, cash contributions from each of our local governments in order to be covered by the plan, because there is that match requirement. And in 2011, we switched to the in-kind match, and FEMA is very particular about making sure that that match is there. So we really encourage you to please participate in the meetings and also give feedback on the website, as Olivia suggested.
All right, thank you, Jarrett. Thank you, Olivia. No action required on that item as well. Moving on to in the agenda, item number 14, Division of Social Services. Lynn.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have 3 items to present today, and you can find those on page 2 in your packet if you want to take a look at them. The first one is we would request approval for our executive director to sign the next agreement with Meals on Wheels America. This is a project that we're doing in conjunction with Humana Medicare policyholders. And they refer them to us for meals and for friendly visiting. And it's been an evolving program where we've been happy with the progress that they've made and some adjustments they've made to the contract. So we're requesting approval to sign that agreement for the next year.
All right, you said you had 3 items. We can handle these individually. So I need a motion and a second to authorize the executive director to sign those agreements.
So moved, Mayor Black.
Second, Todd Pollock.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, moving on.
Thank you. The second one is in the past, we've had a contract with ElderServe to conduct financial management services out of our 3B funds. And they have discontinued that, offering that product or that service. And so we're requesting special permission to release an RFP to the only other existing company that we know of that offers that same service. It's called KEPT, K-E-P-T, Inc. And we're asking approval to release that RFP as a sole source RFP to that organization.
All right, need a motion and a second to allow the release of that request for, I guess it's a request for qualifications or a request for proposal. Need a motion and a second.
So moved, Mayor Eaton.
Second, Todd Pollock.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, I'm not opposed.
All right.
And the last piece of our business for today is there's a list provided on that page, the second half of that page. Because of the COVID funds that we've had for this year, we have been allowing a lot of our 3B contracts to provide services at the pace that they could, at the pace that they had enrolled clients. And so at this point, we needed to put a definition on the distribution of those funds. And so I am proposing that we increase 5 of the pieces of the 3B contracts for ElderServe, Highlands, Multipurpose, Tri-County. And Tri-County is providing transportation in their area, so we're increasing that as well. But we'll be reducing Louisville Wheels, who has underperformed for the first quarter because they're limited to just a few people on each transport. So we need to make that adjustment. And then on our Title 3D Health Promotions Program, there was only one program that could not be performed this year in this COVID environment. And so we're reducing the budget by that $9,000 that we had allocated for that service. So I'm asking for authorization to adjust those contracts with the funds specified on that report.
Okay,
and we'll need, I'm sorry, Chairman, we'll need a abstention from those that are with Tri-County or Multipurpose Board for this particular item. Excuse us for leaving that off up there.
This is Todd Pollock. I'm going to abstain.
John Riley, we're going to abstain on that.
All right, need a motion and a second, please.
I thought Todd Pollock would, approve that and second his own motion.
Well, somebody's got to do it, Judge.
I'm glad Todd showed up this meeting today. Without him, we wouldn't have had any motions to prove anything.
All right, looking for a
I think
motion.
everybody's asleep.
I'll make that motion. Sean Carruthers.
Looking for a second.
I'll second it.
Jeff O'Brien.
Well, you can't, John. Well, maybe John can.
Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. And we have 2 noted abstentions.
Thank you all.
Item approved. Lynn? Do you have anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Moving on to item number 15, need for home care aides. Jessica.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for that approval and the energy that's now in the room. Leave it at that. A long meeting today, so thank you for sticking with us. I will touch briefly on this. I think I talked about it at the last board meeting as well, but our home care providers are having grave difficulty finding aides to provide services for our clients. So in order to try to assist them with the hiring, recruiting individuals process, this is in your board packet, a flyer, which has our home care agencies listed on it, which is Always Caring, Interim, Lifeline, Tri-County, and Visiting Angels. I'm asking, please do anything that you can to distribute this particular flyer, posting it, taking it to the grocery store with you and dropping one off on the board. Our rate of delivery has dropped dramatically in that particular program. We're serving clients. However, we're not serving them at 100%, and it's making it difficult also to take on new clients. So if you would please share away. Anywhere that you go, any other organizations or clubs that you belong to, that as well. Also on that particular note, we had a Title III providers meeting this week. So I'd like to let you all know about some other services out there that are struggling similarly. One of those is Louisville Wheels. They're in need for drivers. They have that particular job posted on Indeed, and I'll send this after the meeting as I finish summarizing everything. So if you know of someone that is looking for, a part-time job or a full-time job for that matter, and they have the urge to drive, please go out to Indeed and look for the Wheels application. Louisville Metro Senior Nutrition Program is looking for volunteers. If you know anybody to send that way to help with meal delivery and handout at the drive-up sites. And Jewish Community is having difficulty with their aides as well in their care program that is grant funded and across the board. So Jewish Family, Metro Senior Nutrition Program, Louisville Wheels, and all of our home care providers. Pretty much everyone, sorry to say, but I know that a lot of organizations are struggling out there. So
Jessica, what are we paying for these home care providers?
The home care aides make different rates for different agencies. I can tell you what our unit rates are. They're somewhere, and Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, somewhere between $13 and $15 an hour on average. So I will say 14 on average across the providers is what we pay those agencies for aides, for units, sorry. And a unit is a half an hour. I think our lowest one is 1308. That number's sticking out in my head. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's an obvious question that people looking for a job, how much to pay?
$26 an hour is what we pay to them. I can get that to you. I'll get you the average and send it out along with the information for the other agencies. No problem.
Thank you.
I'll get that out to you as well. Also, on note of what they pay is they're offering incentives, and you'll see that on the flyer. Some of them will pay for CNA training. They pay for the travel. Some of them have holiday schedules. So each one of them is a little bit different. So if you all have any questions about that, once you look at it and look at the additional information, please let me know.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that's all I have on that particular item.
Thank you, Jessica. Any further questions on the need for home care aides? All right, Jessica, looks like you're up again for COVID vaccine.
I could probably go on all day about this one, I will say that, but I'm going to keep it very brief because I think you all are aware of what's happening out there as well. So I will just say that we are working multiple times daily to stay updated on the information that is out there about vaccines. We get information from multiple sources, even the news media. And Jared can testify as well. We've been working very diligently on establishing relationships with the local health departments and agencies so that we have a true idea of how best to serve not only our clients, but this community at large. We will distribute each piece of information as we get it to our media sites. We're looking to help with registration for those clients that we serve and those that just call into us. If you haven't been out there on the website, some of them are a form. One of them has a phone number where people can call if they can't get online. But the difficult or challenging, I won't say difficult, challenging part is even if they can get through, some of them require that you create a MyChart account or something similar to walk through that, which obviously is a multi-step process. So we're working through that to do the best that we can to analyze, distribute, and see how we can help people. We've been asked information about our active clients from the Department for Aging and Independent Living to try to get an idea of active clients that may want the vaccine, would need transportation to a site, and potentially would want a person to come to their home and vaccinate them. So we worked on compiling those numbers for all services across the board, even our waiver program, and provided that information to them. So we're hopeful that in the next coming weeks, we will be able to have a good system down to serve our clients in the community. We'll keep you updated every step of the way. And again, please check our social media because we will be posting as we go along. So if y'all have any questions, please ask.
I'm only aware of, I've only looked at one site where people were supposed to sign up, and I don't know if this circumstance is consistent across the number of them, but they had to come on and fill out who they were they, a bunch of information about themselves. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they went to the next page to get an appointment, only to find out there were no appointments. Mm-hmm. That I asked I asked our health department. I said that you need to know if you're going to have an appointment before we force you to sign up or disclose information, because they were repeating that circumstance each week, and it was bass backward on that.
So I do know that so it's Norton, U of L, Baptist. Currently, when this system first opened, it basically filled up in a day and a half and shut down for a minute. As of Tuesday of this week, Tuesday evening, this is the direction that I have. I'm going to read it to you from this news article. Norton is the only of the 3 providers that has a list. So those looking for an appointment are advised to check U of L Health and Baptist Health for any available slots first. If they don't have any appointment slots, people are directed to then go to the Norton site to be on a waiting list. That's the first time a waiting list has popped up. There were interest lists out there, but there's now a waiting list. So there's 2 options on that particular COVID site. I know North Central has also sent out a form of an interest list where you go in, you do your name, it's just your basic demographic information, and I believe it's a one-stop shop. So they're keeping a list as well in the North Central Health District as vaccines become available. So those are the sites that I'm aware of. And as you said, Judge Bogle, it is complicated and it's changing.
Doesn't sound like there's a uniform sign-up system. It's everybody's made their own.
It's challenging, yes. But that's why we're working very hard to establish relationships so that we can make that smoother as a whole. Because we know what our community members need and we want to help.
I mean, you know, if you could just sign up and leave your name there, you might have 3,000 names on the list. I mean, I can't imagine how the staff would keep moving through that. Arrange for people to come in because people have to determine when they can come themselves. But it's kind of a bollocksed up something.
Just to add a little bit to this conversation, we have been, I've been contacted by a commissioner for the Department of Facilities and Support Services with the Finance Cabinet that are looking for mass distribution sites. I know I've spoken with Judge Vogel and Judge Summers. This afternoon or this morning, he followed up with another email saying they're still looking for suitable sites. They're looking for both drive-through sites, and this is going to be in the outer counties since Broadbent Arena and the hospitals are handling the vaccines in Metro. But for the drive-through sites, they're looking for multi-lanes that are 5 wide, drive in one door and out another, and then parking so people can wait their turn to drive in an area they can park and wait for the 15 minutes before leaving to see if there are any adverse reactions. So, and then also they're additionally looking for walk-in sites, and the walk-in site criteria is 20,000 square feet, a large parking area. They want it lighted and climate controlled, and then accessible for people to walk in easily. The ideas they were thinking about were convention centers or large retail stores. So I'll send this out to you all, but if you all could please be thinking of anything in your all's community, and I will respond back to the Finance Cabinet with any of the locations. And I know, as talking with Judge Vogel, it's very difficult to find these drive-through sites with that many bays to drive through. But if you all have any ideas, please share them with me, and I'll send those up to the state.
Thank you, Jarrett. So as you all can see, there's work being done on the back end to help straighten things out so that we, can move through with a smoother process, and it's coming. So, getting the vaccines in and making sure the sites can handle the capacity. We're definitely working with everyone on that. I think, those expectations are there that we would have those hiccups as we learn and we walk through. And now that we have, not only us as KIPDA, but also as a state, more information about what might be coming in, we can do this successfully, and we will.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Jarrett, for that information. For those people who are on the Indiana side of the river, there is a COVID testing facility that is in Clarksville. It is on the backside of Town Hall in our community center. It's been open for approximately 9 months. They are processing about 300 people a day through there with tests. And then 2 weeks ago, in an old, and I'm going to date myself here, an old retail facility on Lewis and Clark Parkway, in an old service merchandise retail facility, the county has opened up a COVID vaccine center, and it is about 15,000 square feet. And it does take about that much space because they bring you in on one side, do the paperwork, do the vaccination. You do have to sit for a period of time to make sure you don't have any adverse effects, and then you're allowed to leave. But it does take a rather large parking lot and a rather large facility. And so what we are being told is that a vacant big box or something in the neighborhood of 12 to 15,000 square feet does work best, especially if they have a separate entrance from an exit, like a lot of the big boxes did. So that's an update for those on the Indiana side. So thank you again, Jessica, for that information. Jarrett, legislation in Kentucky.
Well, just for the interest in time, I'll go through this quickly, but the Kentucky legislative session began on Tuesday, January 5th. Legislators are tasked with crafting a one-year budget during the 30-day session. To date, 280 House bills and 100 Senate bills have been filed. It was a busy start to the session, with the legislature sending 7 bills to the governor's desk. 6 of these bills were related to the governor's executive powers and were vetoed by the governor. Senate Bill 9, the Born Alive Infant Bill, became law without the governor's signature. Legislators will return for part 2 of the session on February 2nd. They're expected to override the governor's vetoes at that time, and Governor Beshear has previously stated that he anticipates those bills ending up in court. With 22 days left in the session, some important dates to remember. February 10th is the last day for new Senate bills. February 11th is the last day for House bills, and the session concludes on March 30th. In your board packet, you will find some bills that we are tracking related to local government and also our area agency on aging and independent living. This list will grow as bills are filed, and next month we should have a little bit more of an idea of where the session is headed. And I've spoken with Mayor Deere, who's very vested in Frankfurt, and he'll give a kind of an update specifically on some of the pension bills. So that concludes my report.
Thanks, Jared. Any questions for Jared? All right, move on to item number 18, Indiana Legislative Report. I had an extensive one, about a page or two. I'll, for sake of time, reduce it down. This is a budget year in Indiana as well. They will be in session from January 4th through the end of April. A couple things are different this year in that bills, if they are introduced in one chamber, upon approval there will immediately move to the other chamber and then be pushed up to the governor's desk. In previous years, we had a halftime where bills changed from one chamber to the other. That has been changed this year. Unlike Kentucky, we have had over 1,000 bills filed, even though they put some COVID restrictions that limited the amount of bills per legislator that could be introduced. We're currently sitting at only about 100 less today than were filed in all of last year. So don't think that COVID restriction worked out too well. Key items seem to be a lot of bills and a lot of discussion on marijuana, both medical and recreational. Several bills dealing with police and fire, ways to protect their budgets from being defunded. Others are the initiation and creation of police and fire officer misconduct or de-escalation training opportunities. And one item is the state is looking to eliminate the split speed difference. So vehicles normally allowed to travel at 70 miles an hour, large trucks at a reduced rate. If this bill passes, everyone would be allowed to travel at the same speed. This is a budget year as well, so we anticipate the last couple of weeks to be dedicated just to the budget and getting that approved. And as more bills come up that seem to be taking hold and have feet to move forward, I'll present on those at the next meeting. So any questions on Indiana legislation? All right, item number 19 on the agenda, release of final fiscal year 2021 audit report. Tom.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. The agenda item does indicate that it's a release of the 2021 audit. I wish I was getting a 21 audit approved right now, and that'd make the summer and fall a lot more comfortable. But this is for the release. We did receive notice from the Kentucky Auditor of Public Accounts that he had reviewed that office had reviewed both the audit and the work papers of our auditor and released the final. And what we'd like, we request board action to acknowledge notice of receipt of the release by the Kentucky Auditor of Public Accounts of the final Kentucky or the FY 2020 audit report. Be glad to answer any questions. The actual final report had no significant changes from what was presented to the board in November. And as I said, there were no changes by the Auditor of Public Accounts. And the report was a separate attachment to the board packet, and it's also on our website. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
They also had, and they got us answers. And this is significant.
Any questions for Tom?
Roadmap, this report is the roadmap for us.
Hearing none, need a motion and second to approve this item.
So moved, Keith Griffey.
Second, David Vogel.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Staying with you, Tom, for the mid-year budget.
Thank you. The copy of the information starts on page 39 in your board packet. And some of the information is probably a little bit harder to read, but there's a summary that allocates the line items among indirect, CED, transportation, social services, local funds not required for match. And this budget reflects a proposed across the board salary increase of 1.5% with a minimum increase of $500 to all staff that have been in their positions for 6 months, at least 6 months, and based on satisfactory evaluations. We propose this would be retroactive to January 1st of 2021. In the past, we've made those effective at the beginning of the fiscal year, but because of the uncertainty of funding, we feel it makes more sense to make these effective at mid-year when we have a better feel for our funding. When we started the year, we were really uncertain about our funding, and at this point, we're much more comfortable with how much money we're going to have for the year, and we would propose in the future all of our salary increases would be as of January 1st of each year. On the recap, you can see that each division we're reflecting surpluses, and most of those surpluses are carryover into the next fiscal year, or in the case of social services, the majority of that increase there relates to our in-person assister program. We received additional funds from the state of over $653,000 above what we've been receiving in prior years, and this was to do some activities that haven't materialized because of the COVID situation. So we're not really utilizing those, and we don't anticipate we'll utilize most of those. The social service division has been discussed, has gone to great lengths to make sure we maximize the dollars. We've got some programs, as has been pointed out, that we're having trouble getting services provided. There's a hesitancy on some of our clients to let people into their home for home delivered services, and problems, as Jessica pointed out, on getting aids. And the staff has worked very hard to see that if there's going to be a program that won't be able to use all the money, they're working with the state to get permission to use it for things like meals. We're spending a lot of money on meals. We've gotten some additional funds for that. But as I said, the majority of the programs we're hoping to balance out if we've got money left over to get the state to approve us to use those funds other places. The biggest single source of surplus is our transportation division, where there's about $1,468,000 of surplus. And here the largest part is in our rideshare program. We've had a significant decrease in the number of vans on the road because of people not working, and it's taken a big hit on that program. Most years we'll buy a number of vans to upgrade the fleet, and this year we're hit by two things. One is in FY20, we only usually we'll buy vans twice a year. In 20, we only did it once because then the COVID hit, and we didn't buy that second round, and we're not budgeting any money to be spent in 21 for the purchase of vans. So again, these are things that are beyond our control. Amanda and Stacy have worked to reassign staff where possible to work on other activities within the transportation division to make sure that we're making utilizations of the funds we have. And then within the CED department, we've got about $529,000 of surplus there budgeted, and those are in programs that carry over into the next fiscal year. And the biggest single one there is we received some EDA COVID funds through Department for Local Government, and that was a 2-year contract for $392,000, and we just started utilizing those funds in the middle of this year. So there's over $300,000 carryover there. So the good news is we are got plenty of funds to get to the end of next year, and I mean of this year, and then we'll have money to carry over into next year, and we're trying to maximize as best we can the utilization of funds. There are several pages that show by division what activities we're paying for, and as you have time to look at that, if you've got any questions, I'll be glad. You can contact me. I know today we're kind of running out of time, but I'll be glad to answer any questions anyone has right now, and if any come up, just let me know.
Hey, Tom, this is Mayor Black. You said something about salaries being retroactive back to January 1st. Don't we typically pass a budget somewhere around July 1st to begin the fiscal year, or did we miss 6 months, or what did we do?
Well, what we did in the beginning of the year is because we were unsure of what our funding was going to be. We asked the board to just approve an exact continuation of the ending budget for FY20. And at that point, we indicated that because of the uncertainty, we did not recommend any salary adjustments at that point in time. And so now that we've looked at things, we're recommending the 1.5%, but there have been raises.
How come that 1.5% would not revert back to July 1st?
Well, we just wanted to get on this cycle so that in the future, we're going to make all of our raises as of January 1st. And that,
oh, you are? Okay, you're trying to get on this cycle.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know, I'm pretty tight and Judge Vogel's tighter than I am, but I'd give you a 2% raise instead of $1.50 if anybody else would go along with it.
Well, we would love to give as much as we can. You know, we just, with the uncertainties ahead, and you know, we got a waiver this year of the increase in the retirement expense, and at this point, we're not aware of that. You know, the legislation was approved that every year until 2028, our rate of contribution into the retirement system can increase up to no more than the rate can increase by more than 12% of the previous year's rate. What's in place now, we would have a increase next fiscal year of 2.9% of our salary in our fringe costs would go up based on the salary in effect by 2.9% more retirement expense. So because of the known impact on our budget of that and any other uncertainties, we've got other things. You know, this year we don't have a lot of travel expense, you know, because people aren't going out to see clients. We're going to have more travel expense next year. So we would love to, believe me, we would love to give more than 1.5, but we just feel right now at this point we're not comfortable doing more than 1.5. I'm sorry to say.
Okay, well, I tried.
I appreciate the offer, but I tell you, we'd love to do it.
Okay, so any further questions of Tom?
Well, I'd like to recommend that I realize Tom said that the page 40 here might be a little difficult to read. My glasses are to a power of 10, and I still can't read it here. This is illegible, page 40. It just, I don't know if there's any way around it, Tom, but you know, it just, you know.
That's a little bit of the difficulty of conducting these meetings virtually. Reading it, viewing it on this computer screen, you would be able to open it up and increase, but just unfortunately printing out from the way we did the PDF scan, it just didn't print with the larger pages.
I see. Well, okay. You know, at some point, I've said this before, I'd like to really take, you know, 10 minutes at each meeting and go through and take apart the financial statement. I trust everything I'm being told, but I'm honestly basically just sort of approving everything without really having any grasp on what I'm approving. I'm just saying yes because I trust everybody who's working there. But I'd like to have a better handle on it.
I understand that, and we'd be happy to do that. And also, anytime you'd like to have further discussion, Tom and I would be happy to either, if you wanted to come here, or us go out there to sit down and go through the book. So we'd be happy to have those discussions.
Okay. I'm just kidding on that page 40, to the sense that I realize you're trying to get a lot of information out there, and it's I've never seen that small of font size. I didn't know you could get down that far.
All right, any further discussion?
I think that's why Tom's office looks like it does.
That's right. That's the only reason.
All right, need a motion and a second to approve the requested action to approve 2021 mid-year budget revision, including a 1.5% raise.
So moved. Todd
I'll
Pollock,
second
where
that
are you?
motion.
All right, I have a motion. Did I have a second?
Aye.
It's a quiet group. Todd Pollock, where are you? John Riley.
Hey, I'm right here. I said I'd second the motion.
Oh, you did?
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Better not be anybody.
Me, John Black.
Mayor Black is opposed, for the record. All right, that item does pass. Item number 21, January personnel report. Kelly.
So we've had 2 new hires. Well, actually, Leanne Shawcross began in December 7th. She is a part-time service advisor in our home and community-based waiver in social services. She has a bachelor's degree in social work from the University of Louisville and a master's degree in criminal justice studies from California University of Pennsylvania. She came to KIPDA from the Center for Women and Families, where she worked as a domestic violence outreach coordinator. We also hired Jenna Graham, January the 6th. She has been hired as our economic resilience planner in our community and economic development division. Jenna has a bachelor's degree in animal behavior and minors in biology, psychology, and nonprofit management from Indiana University. I know, Jenna, you were on here. I don't know if you still are. You went away. Oh, there she is. Okay. Hi, Jenna. We've also had one promotion. Elizabeth Fark was promoted from a transportation planner 2 to a transportation planner 3, obviously in the Division of Transportation, effective December 14th. We have one retirement, Christy Parker, the connector in Division of Social Services. Her last day will be actually tomorrow. She has been with KIPDA since September 16th of 2013. We currently have one position vacant, which is our family caregiver program coordinator position. This is in social services. A job description and salary information can be found on our website. We currently have 82 full-time permanent, 4 part-time permanent, and 7 full-time temporary. I also just wanted to report that last year we developed some new tools for our performance evaluations. We developed a manager evaluation and an employee evaluation. We have concluded our annual evaluation with those tools. They should be completed, signed, and delivered by close of business tomorrow. Just wanted to update you on that. Business as usual, I guess. If you're interested in any new tools for your evaluations, you can always email me and I'd be happy to send you that. That concludes my report. If there aren't any questions, action is requested to accept my personnel report.
Any questions of Kelly?
Motion to accept the report.
I'll second that motion. Todd Pollock.
All right, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand, please. All opposed? All right. Moving on, item number 22, intergovernmental reviews. Jarrett.
Items A through M have all been submitted for review by their locality and are in order for an approval. They can be approved at one time. So one motion.
All right, have item on the table for intergovernmental reviews, item A through M. Need a motion and a second to approve.
I'll move Keith Griffey.
Come on, Todd.
I was waiting on you, Mayor. Come on.
Needing a
I'll
second.
second that motion.
We have to abstain if we've got some money in the mix here.
No, sir.
Okay, I'll second it.
All right, have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on, item 23, Jared, Executive Director's Report.
Well, this has been a meeting. Thank you all, and thank you all for, sorry, I apologize for the confusion with the meeting. Thank you all for getting on. I think that if I have any more meetings like that, I'm going to be looking like Tom a lot quicker than I expected because it gave me a few gray hairs. But I see Judge Summers is still on here, and it's Judge Summers' birthday. So Judge Summers, happy birthday. I know it was a special treat joining us today, so I hope you have a good rest of your day.
He's been awfully quiet. Where is he?
I see the screen.
You see his screen there. He's went out to the kitchen.
But finally, just next month, February 25th, we have the TPC meeting at 12:30 and the board meeting at 2 o'clock. And this concludes my report.
I'll make a motion. We accept the director's report. Todd Pollock.
Second, John Black.
All right, have a motion and a second to accept the Executive Director's Report. Any further discussion?
Did we ever find out if Henry County's still a county, or did Todd Pollock take that county over?
That's the only reason I'm
You
still
love
on
that,
here.
don't
I
you,
know
Mayor?
somebody's got to adjourn this meeting, so.
I'll make that motion too.
Well,
I'll
wait a
make a
minute. We
motion
need
to
to, we
adjourn.
need to approve a Director's Report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, is there any other business come forward to the board?
Well, again, since Judge Brent's not here, I'll motion that we adjourn.
The motion to adjourn. If anyone is opposed, please stay on. Otherwise, thank you very much for your patience today. I know it's been almost 2 hours, but I believe we've went through a lot of work. So again, thank you very much. We'll see you same time, same channel in February.
See y'all
All
next
right,
week.
we're
Thank
gonna
you
give
all.
the staff, we're gonna give the staff a better raise in the future if we can.
Good job, everybody, particularly all the staff. Appreciate the work you do.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.